Hello and welcome to Extraordinary Women TV with Shannon Skinner. I'm your host. Well, on today's show, we're going to be talking about healing, music, and prosperity with Brenda MacIntyre. She is Medicine Songwoman. She's also a healer, business coach, spiritual mentor, and a recording artist. And it's a pleasure to have you here today, Brenda. And of course, later in the segment, before we take a break, I'll have my regular Good to Know Minute when I ask my guests for their top tip on living a successful life. And we're going to hear Brenda's tip. Hello, Brenda.
Hi, Shannon. Good morning.
Nice to have you here today.
Nice to have me here too. I'm so excited to be here. Yeah, this is really awesome. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, you are Brenda MacIntyre, Medicine Songwoman. Now, Medicine Songwoman is your spiritual name.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about the significance of that. And how did that come to be?
Sure. In Native traditions, there's all kinds of ways actually with naming. There's different ceremonies, different traditions, and the tradition that I follow is Ojibwe, and I'm Ojibwe and Odawa, so that's what I kind of go by. The elder who named me is Cree. And the way that our belief is that our spirit name is already out there. It already exists. It's what Creator knows us by. Creator, source, all that is. And so for me, I was at a point in my life where I just knew that it was time to get my name, and I always wanted to do that because there's, you could go down to Anishinaabe Health in Toronto. They have an elder who will do that for you, but I didn't feel like I knew any of the elders in the community well enough, that because traditionally sometimes it could be that that you would go and have like an uncle or an auntie or a grandmother, someone in your family would name you, but I don't have the family thing happening because I was adopted, and both of my parents passed away when I was young. And so Joanne Dallaire, after I had known her for a while in the community, I had gone to her for healing and for advice, and she's a seer, and I'd gone and had sessions with her, been in her workshops, and I was doing something for her one day, and I just asked her and offered her tobacco to, which is what we do as kind of like a sacred contract, asked her if she would give me my name. And she actually did it right there and then. Usually there's just all this pomp and circumstance and stuff, and she
like
just
a ceremony around it.
Yeah, but we were already in ceremony because she had invited me to, I think it was one of the equinoxes, I forget, I think it was fall equinox, and this was a few years ago, and so I guess because we were already in ceremony, she was like, yeah, sure. And it just came through very quickly and easily for her. And she was just kind of going, really, are you sure? Talking to Spirit, and because it seemed so obvious. And that's what she told me after she goes, yeah, I checked and they said, yeah, it's Medicine Songwoman. Seems really obvious because I'd been singing healing songs, and that's what she had me come and do in her circle. So, yeah. And
it really resonated with you.
Yeah.
And so how long have you been, you've been singing for many years.
Yeah, I've been singing all my life, but professionally I've been singing since, really since 19.
Right.
When I was 19, I had the opportunity to go to Miami and have my first vinyl, back then, single that was released onto Top 40 radio in Miami. So that was like the big exciting adventure. Yeah, 12-inch,
yeah.
12-inch single, yeah.
Remember those days?
Yeah, so so that was very exciting, and that was kind of the start of things. But I got on stage the first time when I was 17 in this little itty-bitty bar in literally in a village in BC called Lumbee. Yeah.
That was your first gig?
Yeah, it was actually just sort of an impromptu thing, and my friend was pushing me, my best friend at the time, Lisa Parsons, and bless her soul, because she got me up there, and I loved it ever since.
Now there's around your neck is something that's very significant. So let's talk about this.
Sure. This is a medicine bag, and what's on top of it, and I don't know the correct name. It's a big, long Maori name that I'm not going to mispronounce. But it's similar too. It's medicine that you wear every day, and it connects you to the person who gave it to you. The medicine bag is from my own tradition, well, that side of my tradition, because I'm also Irish and Scottish. But usually you carry the 4 medicines in that, and the 4 medicines are tobacco, sweetgrass, sage, and cedar. And then whatever else, there's usually sacred items that, and it depends from person to person what will be in there. And for me, day to day.
So you wear this day to day?
Yeah.
Well, that's fascinating. Now you have 3 CDs out. Let's talk a little bit about your music. In your words, and your music is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
In your words, what is your music about?
My music's always been about uplifting people, and my music now, like, it's evolved. When I started out in Miami, it was kind of just about having fun and, uplifting people. And it turned into, I guess for a while, it was almost a little political. Like the song that got on the Juno Award-winning CD was an anti-crack song. And so I was all about promoting, healthy, clean living, and still am. And so that's part of it. And also, it's really a lot to do with healing. It's just really a lot to do with healing now. So I find, what I found, I was singing with a group for quite a while, and the group kind of evolved. We called ourselves Spirit Wind. There were 2 of us that started, and now they're still going. And when I was singing with them, what I was finding was people were crying in the audience after we sang. People were getting really emotional experiences and healing out of it. And I know that there's evidence now, scientific evidence that drumming is actually great for your health, and it literally unwinds your DNA. So I knew that was happening, but I knew there was also something more. And I didn't really understand that until I started singing and drumming by myself in front of audiences, and really just letting it fly, as it were, just letting it come out. And then people started to get real, even physical healing from my songs. And when I realized that's kind of when things started to, again, evolve in my career, because I knew that there was something more that I had to do with it. Yeah.
And you knew from a very, very, very young age that you were meant to sing.
Yeah, absolutely.
11, age 11.
Yeah.
Somehow you knew.
Yeah. And I just had this burning desire to do it. And I was incredibly shy, so I would only do that, in my basement alone or in the hills. I lived in Kamloops, BC, and I spent a lot of time in the hills, right behind my house. And you would call them mountains here in Ontario, but the small mountains. So, but yeah, I spent a lot of time in nature growing up and loved it. And I would just go sing, and like lyrics I was a bit of a writer as well. I've always been writing, and I always loved that too. So it kind of started combining itself, into writing songs, and I think I just got more and more involved in it as I grew.
Was there anyone you found that was a role model, or was it all completely raw, natural inspiration?
At that point, just completely raw, natural inspiration.
Yeah.
We had 2 radio stations where I lived. Pardon me. And either
they were
either
playing
rock
vinyl.
Yeah, exactly. It was either rock or country, and I mean, I really like my rock music still. Like, that's what I kind of grew up on. But there wasn't anything really for me to be inspired by in terms of music. I wasn't listening to anything that did until I moved to Toronto.
And so your childhood, how did that sort of, impact your inspiration and your songwriting? Or, were you pulling from your family experience, or were you pulling from nature?
I think I've always been pulling from nature, just because I've always been very, very connected to the land. Like, to this day, when I go and I manifest a trip every year to BC, at least one, and every time I'm there, coming back from BC, leaving on the plane, I get choked up. I get tears in my eyes. Nowhere else does that for me. And it's from a connection that I had from growing up there. And pardon me, it's where I will often say, like when I do my traditional introduction, Ojibwe, I'll always mention Kamloops as my home. And that's why. It's just really had a powerful impact on me growing up there, the land.
Now we're going to take a quick break, and before we do, this is my good to know minute when I ask my guests for their top success tip. And I know that you've got a great success tip, Brenda, so just jump right in, and what would be your top success tip?
Sure. I think my top success tip is to be in gratitude, to just be in gratitude all the time. I am always telling my clients to practice extreme gratitude, and I have a practice that kind of evolved out of an Abraham Hicks practice, and they call it rampages of appreciation. And I tell my clients, and I do this myself too, to anytime, and especially when you're feeling really kind of crummy, feeling low, is to sit wherever. It doesn't matter where you are. You could be anywhere. I could be right here, and look around, look inside, look in your memories and your thoughts, and just find things to be grateful for, and just keep spewing them out. Just keep on saying them until when you get to a certain point, you can feel the gratitude welling up inside, and keep going, and then you'll feel tears coming, and keep going. And I tell my clients, keep going until the crying stops, because that's a huge release. You're releasing stuff that you don't, limiting thoughts and beliefs and behaviors. You're just releasing those naturally through your tears. And then at the same time, you have so much gratitude. It's just it's overwhelming. And it's just like filling yourself up to the point where you're overflowing. It's so beautiful. So
it's your success tip.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. So gratitude. Now, of course, we're going to take a break, and we're going to be playing one of your videos with your music crystal clear. And this is a lovely video. So enjoy some of Brenda MacIntyre's talent and creative genius during this break, and we'll see you in a few minutes. I'm Shannon Skinner and you're watching Extraordinary Women TV. And we just saw a beautiful video from medicine songwoman Brenda MacIntyre, who's here in the studio with me today. Healer, business coach, spiritual mentor, recording artist. Your voice is so lovely. Now let's talk about the significance of that video that we just saw.
Sure. Well, the song itself is really, it's about gathering together. It's also about water, obviously, and healing the water. And the cool thing is I channeled that when I was on stage in Hamilton, up on the mountain actually. And I came back, I didn't know what it was called. And I didn't know what it was called then. And I came back a couple of months later to sing at some other gathering in actually it was an Aboriginal gathering in Hamilton, and I sang that song for them, and you know it had come through at this spiritual gathering that I was at, and so the executive director was at this nonprofit there, and he asked me to sing my water song, and so I did the. You know, I was trying to figure it out. I don't know what song he was talking about because it didn't have a title. I didn't, you know, and it wasn't a water song that I knew of. But he just insisted, and then he's, you know, if I figured out which one he was talking about, I went, oh, and of course, oh yes, I did have the title by then. It was called Crystal Clear. Yeah, so I was thinking, yeah, okay, I get it now. And the thing is, Toronto is at one end of Lake Ontario, Hamilton's at the other. So it was really beautiful kind of connection there too for me. Just kind of from one end of the lake to the other, and it's about healing the water.
So what is the significance of water for you and healing the water? Why is that so important to you?
Beyond the obvious, it's what beyond the obvious. It's in Aboriginal traditions. I'm pretty sure all over the world too, but for sure in Ojibwe tradition, it's women's responsibility to take care of the water. And so in any of the ceremonies that we have, there's always fire and water, and the water is you know, if I was in a ceremony, I could be asked to sing a water song because that's part of what we have to do, and. So I started learning, because of that, I started learning about water a long time ago, and I was really fascinated with all of the different teachings, and there were several songs, and then I started getting songs on my own about the water. And I also had the pleasure of singing at Dr. Emoto's appearance here in Toronto in 2005. And after that, he invited there were Aboriginal elders, and I was there because I had sang at the event, and we all went to I think it was Cherry Beach, on Lake Ontario, and we did the Aboriginal version of like a woman who came to do the ceremony, the water ceremony by the water, and Dr. Emoto did his version, like what the ceremony he does for healing the water, and. So I've been following his work too, and that's a big part of my inspiration as well. It's just because he's a bridge, kind of like Greg Braden, to, you know, between science and spirituality, and kind of here's the proof, right? So he has the proof of what we've always known, is that you can change the water with your thoughts and with your feelings. And so it's amazing. I have amazing stories. I mean, at that seminar where I was singing for Dr. Emoto, like at the end of his talk, my water was sweet. My daughter has brought me water when she was, I think, 7 years old, and I asked her to get it out of the tap. There was nowhere to get it. We were in a church, so I got her to fill up my water bottle at this tap, and it was sweet. She gave it to me, and it was sweet. I'm like, where did you get that? And she said, you know, where, she shows me where, you know, the women's washroom, and it's Toronto water, which I really don't like the taste of. And I tasted it from the tap. I went, wow, yeah, she changed it just because of who she is. Just because she was, you know, that's children.
Her
I like
energy.
that. And her energy, yeah, and her intentions. And so it's amazing to me that you can do that. And we're all water. We're almost completely water. The earth is almost completely water. So if we, you know, are always saying thank you to the water, then what does that do, right? You're breathing out water every time you breathe, every time I speak, every time I sing, you know, and bringing it into my body too. So it's sort of always there. And so to heal that, imagine what that would do.
Yeah, and you are performing with Greg Braden. You've got a performance coming up.
Yeah, I'm excited to share the stage with him again. It's been a few years, so, and exciting because it's to do with 2012, but it's also, in fact, he's the one that really, when I was singing for him last time when he was here, which was 2005, he was talking about the divine matrix, and before that I didn't know what the energy was that I have always been able to see. I just knew I could see this energy that nobody else seemed to be able to see. And then when I was sitting in the seminar with him, it was just incredible, because I had that realization when he started speaking about the divine matrix. Now he's talking about deep truth, and that's what I'm all about. And we're talking about, you know, the Mayan calendar, although now I've learned there are way more than one calendar, but this is the one that everyone's talking about.
The 2012 calendar, right?
Yeah.
Or year, 2012 Mayan significance.
Yeah. So yes, very exciting, and an opportunity, because there will be 2 global healing meditations to really make that difference. And so yeah, I'll be channeling songs on stage, and yeah, really, I'm looking forward to that very much.
Now I'm going to show, this is your CD, Medicine Song, Brenda MacIntyre, Medicine Songwoman, and so I'm going to show it, and hopefully we can get a close-up of that. It's quite lovely. Here we go. And you sing in English, you sing in Ojibwe, and you also do something you refer to as vocables.
Yeah, and it's mostly vocables. Yeah. I think I only have one song that actually has a Ojibwe word, and it's one word in it. And I didn't grow up with the language. I didn't grow up with any of that. So for me, and actually too in Toronto, most of the women's hand drum songs, at that point anyways, when I was learning, there were some with different languages in them. And most of the ones that we were singing did not have any of those. It was what they called vocables. And it's just, there's sounds rooted in the languages. And so everywhere you go, you'll hear different vocables. And so the ones that I do they just tend to be Ojibwe, I guess probably because that's what I am. Yeah.
Well, it's lovely. Well, let's talk about your life as a coach. I mean, obviously you're a recording artist, and you create beautiful music and healing music that's healing others. But what's interesting too about you is that you've turned all of this, your healing and your music, into becoming a business coach, working primarily with women.
Yep.
Primarily with women, healing their money story, perhaps.
Yep.
Is that a good way of putting it?
Yeah, that is a good way of putting it.
and helping women become more prosperous. But what's interesting for you is that this is actually a challenge that's going a bit against the grain in your community with the Aboriginal community.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to make money on your spirituality. Is that really the idea?
Yeah, that's sort of the embedded thing that's out there.
Yeah.
And it's a hard one to get over, because a lot of, because sure, traditionally we didn't, that wasn't about the money, and, you didn't need money. Mm-hmm. Now we do. We didn't have to have rent to, stay on the land that was ours, but now we do. So yeah, it's a kind of a hard one for some people to get over. And at the same time, like I'm really all about promoting living your truth. And for you to live your truth, I could not, and I was doing it, and I know what it was like as a single mom, working full time and being part of my drum group, Spirit Wind, and that was my full-time gig too. Not possible without burnout. It's
Right.
not. And when you're burning out, how can you be of service if you're burning out? It can't, it can't happen. You can't possibly be at your highest potential and service to others if you're burning yourself out, if you're stressing out because you have to work another job, or because you're broke and, looking for money and can't buy groceries or whatever. So I'm all about promoting prosperity for healers, for artists, for Aboriginal people, and that's the same story, right? It's like a triple whammy for me, because I'm an artist, I'm a singer, you know, and an Aboriginal woman, and a very spiritual person, healer, and all of those things are supposed to be, you know, done free of charge. So many, there's that thought out there, and the thing is, why? Why? It's a service just like any other service, right? Except what we're doing is actually changing the entire world through the work that we're doing. And so, yeah, it's important. It's important to be paid for that, and paid very well for the work that you're doing, and whether you want to consider it work or not, because it sure is, it's work, and there's work to run a business. Darn right.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You know, it's not easy. It's a struggle sometimes, and there's a lot of hard work involved. And at the same time, that hard work feels so much easier because you're in your truth. When
So
you're
if you're
living your
aligned.
truth. Yeah, when you're aligned, yeah. Then it doesn't feel like hard work at all. It just feels like, wow, I can't wait to get up in the morning and start working, because this is my life and I love it, and it's amazing that I get to help people.
And you mentioned that you've accomplished a lot in your life. I mean, you've been on stage, you've produced CDs, beautiful music, you've done all sorts of other things, but you never made any money until now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Until you really harnessed,
Yeah.
really owned your gift. What happened?
Yeah, it's true. Like, a few things have happened along the way. One of the main things was in 2007, when I went and actually did that CD that you're talking about. Started. It was kind of on its journey. In 2007, I went back home to BC. I did a 2.5-month tour of BC with a friend and my daughter, and it was such an incredible healing journey for me. It wasn't so much fun at the time. Some of the stuff was, you know, it was a bumpy road. Some of it was really awesome, and some of it was like, whoa, wow, this is really tough. And at the same time, I really started working my healing journey, like really started working it on the road while we were touring. And when I came back, I took that whole winter as kind of, I called it my urban vision quest, because I really was just being with myself, really healing myself, taking a really hard look at what am I doing here? Like, what is this all about? And I also at the same time crashed financially. It just crashed. Like, and it was always kind of historically my bad sort of time of year would be the winter, financially. And then I would always count on, I'd be turning gigs away in the spring. I'd have so many. And what happened was, in the spring I had no gigs at all. And it was just strange, because I didn't have to call people. I didn't have to go looking for them. It was like they were banging on my door. And all of a sudden there was nothing.
Something happened.
Yeah. So, you know, it's energy,
Yeah.
you know, like I knew that.
Big shift.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, tell me what to do and I'll do it, because this can't, like, I was borrowing groceries from my neighbor. It was that bad. So I had to step into who I am, and, you know, in a bigger way than I was doing already, because I was kind of sidestepping, that's what I call it, you know, sidestepping my path, because I was on it, but I wasn't on it. You know, it's just a little bit off my path, so I could fool myself into believing, yep, I'm living my truth, when really I wasn't, because if I was, then I would have been prosperous too. But, you know, I was not making enough money. I was struggling still. And so, yeah, that all changed as soon as I did a ceremony for myself. That day when I realized, I just went, I literally asked, and I was given a healing system to use directly through spirit. And I said, okay, I'll do it. I said I would do it. You know, I followed their instructions, and I started to do the healing work that I'm doing now. I wasn't doing the coaching that I'm doing now. It's just and spiritual mentoring, but started to do healing sessions. And what ended up happening was amazing to me. I was doing it all by distance, no phone or anything, and people were getting physical healing as well as emotional. So that was an eye-opener for me, because I knew about the emotional healing happening with the drumming, but not the physical. That was really mind-blowing for me.
And so now here you are teaching other women to be prosperous. You have something called the Sacred Path to Prosperity. I think it's 7 secret steps.
Yeah.
What is the sacred path to prosperity? We talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, it's a great question, because along the way, like, I used to really want to help. I've always wanted to help women. And so when I was performing and all over the place, across North America, mostly in Canada, then people were from all different countries emailing me, Facebook messaging me and all that, when are you going to come to my country kind of thing, because I'd love to take your workshop. And these were women who were actually, they were hurting. Like, they wanted to have that empowerment, and they wanted to feel uplifted and confident. And because women have always come to me about finding their voice. That's what it's been always about for me. I didn't know it necessarily the whole time I've been doing this work, but that's what it's always been about. People didn't just come to my drumming circles to hang out and sing. It was about finding their voice. And so I started to develop this thing to try and, just like a program, or I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing it. I didn't know what all this technology we have now with the internet and everything. And so I had this hard copy kind of workbook and 2 CDs. And it was the Sing Yourself Alive, whatever I called it at the time. And so that evolved into, I created a home study that was 4 months long that now I have. Actually, it's available on my website, singyourselfalive.com. And so out of that sprang the Sacred Path to Prosperity, because what I realized through doing my own work, taking my own medicine, because I will walk my talk in a big way. So I use all the stuff that, if I need to use it, or if I've used it already, then I've used it already. But what I realized was that the Sacred Path to Prosperity is it's the same thing as finding your voice. And it's in our body. Like, there's 3 energy centers, the main ones that are involved, and which are the solar plexus right around here, and the heart center and the throat center. And once you open and clear those, and there's work that I do with that, it also involves the other centers, but those are the main ones that you're working with, because this is where you express your truth from, and this is where your power is coming from, right? When you have these 3 combined and working together, then what comes out of your mouth when you're speaking, when you're singing, if you're breathing, like, what comes out ends up being sacred, really full of spirit, and aligned with truth. And it's just powerful. And so that's I kind of discovered that almost by accident, working with my own home study program.
Well, I love it. Well, you've had this just remarkable journey, and such beautiful energy and beautiful music, and a successful business, and I wish you all the best with it. Again, if anyone wanted to reach you, your URL is singyourselfalive.com.
Yes.
Your YouTube channel is?
It's Brenda MacIntyre.
Brenda MacIntyre, okay,
yeah.
Great. Well, our time is up, and it's been a pleasure. Thanks for your time, and wish you all the best, and would love to do a follow-up with you at some future point.
Great. Thank you for having me on your show, Shannon.
Brenda MacIntyre, medicine, a songwoman, remarkable story. Well, for more information about upcoming shows or to contact me, you can visit my website at extraordinarywomentv.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Shannon_Skinner. I do updates about the shows, and it's a great way to reach me. Special thanks to some folks behind the scenes, Jen Wu and Cindy Miranda, and of course to the guys at that channel. Thank you, thank you. If you are interested in transforming your life, I hope the story has inspired you. You've been watching Extraordinary Women TV. I'm Shannon Skinner. See you soon.